Hey everyone, Jon Wertheim. It is today's Quick Serve podcast for the Serve Podcast, day 2 from the 2025 Australian Open. And man, what a day. As 3 NFL playoff games were going on in the U.S., I would happily submit that this was even a richer day of tennis competition. This was just an absolute Lollapalooza on the ground. So it really was like a rock show where you'd go from stage to stage. Name a big player, odds are good. They were in action on day 2, just wall-to-wall tennis. Let's just start at the top. Coco Gauff was first on. She's trying to kick off her campaign, and she did so successfully playing Sonia Kenin, who is the last American to have won the Australian Open. She also beat Coco Gauff when they played at Wimbledon barely 18 months ago. Remember, that is what catalyzed Coco to hire Brad Gilbert and win the U.S. Open. But Coco did not want to lose to Sonia Kenin on day 1, and she didn't. Just a solid performance. We've talked before about how she sort of her 1A after Sabalenka, and she played like it. Just a really solid, comprehensive win over a potentially tricky opponent in Kenin. Jannik Sinner also played the big court, trying to win, get us his 15th straight match at a hardcourt major. He did it. Got tested from Nicolas Jarry of Chile. He got tested. It was 7-6, 7-6 in the first 2 tests. There were some times when Jarry was really bullying the top seed. Sinner would end up prevailing pretty handily in the 3rd set. I think he's got to be really happy with that effort. He got tested a little bit. He passed those tests, and then he sort of cruised home, which is a nice combination for a top seed trying to find his form. His rival Carlos Alcaraz also had a pretty easy time, a couple of rough patches in the middle, but he advances in straight sets. We got the Australian Open major debut of Jokery. We need a better portmanteau mashup for the Djokovic-Andy Murray combination, but it was successful, not after some tense moments against Nasesh Bastavaredi, who Andy and I talked about, 19-year-old from Indiana via Stanford, decided to turn pro, and that has been pretty sound decision. This kid can play, and he won the first set over Novak Djokovic, and for about an hour there, people are thinking, wait a second, is this a absolute colossal upset we have on our hands? It was not. We regressed to the mean, and the 24-time major champion played like, a 24-time major champion. He did not show many of his 37 years in the last half of that match, pulling away and winning in 4 sets after dropping the first. It was one of these matches where everyone wins. So Novak advances, Andy Murray has a successful coaching debut, and Bastavaredi now goes to his next event with the confidence that he really belongs, not only winning a lot of matches, but taking a set off the great Novak Djokovic on one of the biggest stages in tennis. Sort of a happy occasion. Usually matches obviously yield one winner and one loser. This tended to, felt like it yielded 2 winners. Other results from yesterday, Iga Swiatek was in action. We talked yesterday, she was sort of banished to the 3rd court, which is a bit strange for someone who spent most of the last 3 years as the number 1 player in the world. Potentially tricky opponent in Katerina Siniakova, and Swiatek looked great and won in straight sets to advance. She has to be really pleased with that, her court assignment notwithstanding. Other results, after midnight, Naomi Osaka beats Caroline Garcia, something she could not do last year. It was a 3-set win, too, which I think ought to give her a second level of satisfaction, winning and also knowing that after some injury concerns coming in, the 2-time champion here knows that she can play a long 3-set match against a quality opponent. She gets a quality opponent next in Muhova, but Naomi Osaka, a winner. Frances Tiafoe debuting that Lululemon attire. We will refrain we're going to limit ourselves to one vomit joke, but goes 5 sets with Arthur Rinderknecht, the former Texas A&M Aggie player from France. Francis looked great for parts of this match. There were other parts where he got really tight, let a lead go in the 4th set, and whether it was the fatigue, the nerves, the inability to close out the match, he got sick early in the 5th set. Perhaps you've seen some of the clips. And then he, there's our one joke. He booted and rallied, came back, and he looked in really bad shape at the start of the 5th set. And for him to complete that match, get the victory, was really an achievement for him. Sometimes it's got to concern you at some level that this is your fatigue level. We've seen Francis before in majors also. By the time the 5th set rolls around, his tongue's hanging out, and it looks like he's having some conditioning issues. On the flip side, he's got to be really happy to know that he can have an event like that and still stay on the court, play his guts out, literally, second vomit joke, and survive in advance. He'll take advantage of that day off, and good to see Francis get through a really tight, that would have been a really disappointing loss, and he did not let that happen, nor did Tommy Paul, another American in action. He too had to go 5 sets against Chris O'Connell. They played at a major a few years ago. It was 10-8 in the fifth set. This was a short one. This was only 7-5 in the fifth set. But Tommy Paul advances, looked to be a little compromised. Maybe he had some shoulder treatment. Keep an eye on that. But Tommy Paul is a winner. Other matches. We could do an hour show just given the sheer volume of results and relevance. Alex Michelsen, the young American, gets the upset that some predicted over Stefanos Tsitsipas, a former finalist. Those are two careers going in very different directions, but credit Michelsen. People will see the scoreline, but if you dig a little deeper, it was really dicey. Michelsen let a couple of breaks in the fourth set slip away from him, and you start to think, oh boy, the moment's getting to him, and really credit him for resetting and scoring one of the bigger wins of his young, promising career. Belinda Bencic scored an upset back from maternity leave. Former Olympic gold medal winner beating Yelena Ostapenko in a match that a lot of people sort of had an asterisk by. Other Jess Pegula won. We could, again, the sheer volume of matches here is just extraordinary for day two of a major. Special shout out to Vika Azarenka, who did not win. She lost in straight sets to Bronzetti of Italy. And who knows if we see Victoria Azarenka, two-time Australian Open champion, again in Australia. If not, what a career. And this is someone who will end up in the Hall of Fame. Just a steely competitor, one of these enriches the cast players. And if this, in fact, was the last time she plays Australia, we should acknowledge that. Tip of the cap to Vika. Spinning ahead to day three, there are a lot of matches once again on the docket. Remember, this is a first round that spreads over 3 days. So if you think, wait a second, my favorite player has yet to take the court, odds are good, hopefully, that's going to happen on Tuesday. Some players in action. Madison Keys coming off of that title. A number of people, self included, have very high hopes for Maddie Keys in Australia. Seems to be in a good place mentally and physically. Daniil Medvedev, someone else who had a busy offseason, now is a father for the second time. We've talked about how he played no tune-ups, no warm-ups. He was asked about it and said, look, I feel great. I don't necessarily need that. This is someone who's been to multiple finals here. He'll kick off his campaign. Ben Shelton, the hard-serving lefty American, gets a really tough first-round match. And Brandon Nakashima, fellow American. So we'll see how that one goes. Jasmine Paolini is in action. Elena Rybakina as well. Everyone will be obviously checking the coaching situation with Rybakina that we have been discussing. It occurs to me as I read, this is just a off the cuff riff. It occurs to me as I do this monologue, we are toggling between men's and women's results, and it seems pretty seamless. And man, what a virtue of tennis! I can't imagine doing a similar podcast for the NBA or for PGA golf and just seamlessly going for men to women and not thinking twice about that. What a real virtue of tennis that nobody's going to say, wait a second, you talked about Coco, but who's this Alcaraz character you referenced next? Just in riffing here, it occurs to me how much tennis is an integrated sport and how rare and special that is. A lot on the docket for day three. Hopefully the weather cooperates. One thing to keep in mind, too, the players that started Sunday, like Kei Nishikori, get that extra day off with the 3-day first round, which is a little built-in feature now that so many of these majors have gone to the 3-day first round. We will be back tomorrow. Maybe Andy takes the baton, hint, hint. Just kidding. We're happy to do these. But we'll be back tomorrow with all the match wraps and the spin forward. It's been a pretty solid event so far. Again, this day two will go down as one of the great tennis days. If this is what tennis in the era after Serena, Federer, Nadal looks like, we're all going to be okay here. A lot of variety. We had some upsets. We had some standard results. We had some players tested. We had some 5-setters. Play went past midnight. This is what major tennis is all about. Day three, you've got big shoes to fill. We'll be back tomorrow, as always, as the modern Bible verse goes. Like, subscribe, leave us a message. We seem to be doing more traffic on YouTube, so you can find us there as well. Enjoy day three of the 2025 Australian Open, everyone. Thanks, and talk to you soon.